There was just another ISIS terror attack, this time in Jakarta, Indonesia. 7 people are dead. Now, thankfully, 5 of the 7 were the attackers themselves. So as far as, their goals go, they're pretty fucking ineffectual. Again, I'm happy that they were ineffectual, but they're failures according to what they wanted to do. There were suicide bombers and gunmen, and there was an extended gun fight as well. Quote, it took security forces about 3 hours to end the attack near a Starbucks cafe and Sarina's store, which is Jakarta's oldest department store. An Indonesian and a Canadian were killed in the attack. 20 people, including an Algerian, Austrian, German, and Dutchman, were wounded. The Jakarta police chief said one man entered the Starbucks cafe and blew himself up, wounding several inside, and then as people poured out the front of the cafe, 2 gunmen were waiting and they opened fire on them. Man, what a nightmare scenario. They say at the same time, 2 militants attacked a police traffic post nearby using what he described as hand grenade-like bombs. ISIS released a statement on this, saying that a number of bombs, quote, detonated at the same time as attacks from 4 soldiers of the Caliphate with light weapons and suicide belts. And the statement said the attacks targeted a gathering of citizens from the Crusader Coalition. All right, wait. Who are the Crusaders? As you kill people and quite literally crusade, you're calling them Crusaders. And one of the dead, like I said, is a Canadian. Okay, Canada announced that they're not bombing ISIS in Syria anymore. That was one of the first things that Trudeau did when he took power. Canada is the opposite of a crusader. And if you target innocent civilians as they did, that's not targeting crusaders, that's targeting innocent civilians. So, yet again, we have just logic fail on top of logic fail on top of logic fail. And that's unsurprising because we're dealing with terrorists, people who turn to violence to do what they think is solving problems, rarely have 2 brain cells to rub together because if they had them and they had grievances, you'd sit down and talk it out. But they can't do that because they're dipshits, so they just, you're a crusader, as I gun you down. Again, who's a crusader? So they go on like they do in all ISIS statements, and they talk about how Allah's with us, and, they think they're so brave, and they're doing God's work. I'm so sick of this, man. I have news for you. You believe in fucking fairy tales. It's intellectually embarrassing that you're fundamentalists, you're literalists, and you believe a 1,000-year-old book is from God himself. How childish is that? How childish. No, Muhammad didn't split the moon in 2. Nobody lived to 900 years old. Jews don't morph into apes over time. Semen does not come from your backbone. These are all things that, literalists in Islam have to believe. Elephants are not descendants of gays. How can anybody believe any of this stuff? It's 2016, and there are people who not only believe it, they're out there killing people for it. You're quite literally living a lie. And isn't that the last thing that any of us would want to live? There's a reason why people who live a lie over an extended period of time, eventually it comes out in weird ways, and, they break down and they say, why did I do it all this time? It was such a waste. But once you understand it's not literally true, well, then it's just a cherry-picking contest if you want to remain religious. And in a cherry-picking contest, by definition, nobody's right. So you have happy-go-lucky cherry pickers who are liberal and open-minded and moderate and humanitarian, and they're good people, but they're cherry-picking. And then you have bad people who are fundamentalists who cherry-pick the bad parts and stuff. But once you understand that what you believe is not true, the house of cards comes falling down, so why don't you just acknowledge that the shit you believe is ridiculous? I mean, at the very least, you have to have a doubt. Now, people who do these attacks, they don't have doubts because they're doing the attack based on this ideology. But I'm giving you 1,000,000,001 reasons to have a doubt. So have a doubt. And just give it time, man. Let this swirl around in your head a little bit. Let it marinate in your skull. Give it enough time, and then eventually you'll go, So even if I say I'm a literalist and I still believe the Quran literally or the Hadith or the Bible or whatever, I can't be totally sure because there's some things that are just scientifically false in there that we know are not the case. So even if I still believe it, do I believe it enough to shoot somebody else or to blow myself up? You ain't gonna get 72 virgins in heaven, son. You have a better chance of going to a brothel today and getting 72 virgins. Why wait until you die?